Hey everybody, how's it going? So I just wanted to discuss this small piece of, in my opinion, well-themed and well-timed karma. As you can notice, the sun went down right after I set the ISO and white balance on my camera. I'm giving up chasing that because it's just, it keeps changing on me and trolling me, so you'll have to live with the fact that I look like a large black and blue. So what I wanted to discuss is this article where it says, Amazon requests in-person union vote in COVID-hit Alabama. Now, the workers are looking to unionize because of just a number of reasons. You know, you can read about it all across the internet for the past 5 years. There are high rates of injury in some of these warehouses. A lot of them don't have proper ventilation, meaning that people who are being asked to ship 400 to 450 packages an hour are doing so in ridiculously high temperatures. People are pissing in water bottles because they don't have the time to be able to go to the bathroom. It's not that the boss is saying you're not allowed to go to the bathroom. We're just saying that if you don't ship this amount in an hour, you're out of here, so you make your own decision. That kind of bullshit. And there's a lot of reasons that the employees may decide, screw this, it's time to unionize. So what Amazon is saying here in this particular article strikes me as interesting after what they did to Parler recently. So it says over here, Amazon is asking the National Labor Relations Board to consider having workers vote in person rather than by mail on a proposal to form a union in an Alabama warehouse. Now, when you scroll down, you find the punchline in the article, which is what I found to be particularly funny, where they mention fraud. So it says the world's largest online retailer said that a mail election raised the risk of fraud and the coercion of workers. It also said the process would depress turnout. And they're talking about Amazon is really concerned with the voters not being heard. And they're really concerned about fraud with mail-in voting. Now, why do I find this to be particularly funny? Because recently, Amazon and AWS just completely unperson Parler from their hosting services at the same time that Apple, Play Store, and everybody else just unpersoned them. Why? Because you had a bunch of people on the platform that were discussing mail-in voter fraud and stop-the-steal stuff, and all that stop-the-steal and mail voter fraud stuff got people angry. When they got angry, they started posting things that they shouldn't, and it wasn't moderated in the time that they wanted it to be moderated, so they got kicked off. It's not like Twitter and Facebook had any sort of bad content being posted into it late May, early June last year. No, it's just a completely innocent platform. But the thing that I find interesting in karmic here, and to be clear, I don't believe that all the stop the steal crap is true. More people link me to reasons that I should believe in the stop the steal stuff, the more I find out just how ridiculous it all is. Is that their premise is all these people talking about mail-in voter fraud are out of their mind. Let's not allow them to be able to speak. At the same time that that's happening, they're screaming about mail-in voter fraud when it actually affects them. Amazon doesn't give a fuck about mail-in voter fraud. They're not concerned about mail-in voter fraud. They're concerned about losing. They're concerned about maybe actually having to hire a couple of more people and that cutting into the profit margin of this fucking over $1 trillion company. That's why they don't want them to vote. They're going to come up with some bullshit-ass way to suppress the vote when they actually do voting in person. There's going to be somebody there handing out pamphlets or doing something threatening or some sort of silly shit because that's what you see in their own training. So Amazon is actually training their employees to deal with unionization, and there's a video that they released, and it is a really, really, really freaky video. And let me see if I could. Yeah, I don't know if any of you have seen this thing before, where they said, look at this: union words, living wage, contract, grievance. You know, they're training their management to be able to sense anytime someone may want to unionize, and then they discuss tactics that you can use to stop them from unionizing. So this is something that they are doing professionally, probably to a better extent than most other employers in the country because they have the resources to. And also, let's face it, when you look at how quickly they expect their workers to work, the conditions under which they expect their employees to work, and the complete lack of unionization throughout the company, you can kind of understand that they're doing a good job of it. Now, what I find interesting here is that these people talking about mail-in voter fraud, fuck them. But when it may actually affect me in some way, no, I'm allowed to claim mail-in voter fraud with no evidence. I'm allowed to say mail-in voter fraud even when the National Labor Relations Board says that's bullshit because, now it personally affects me. And honestly, I think that this is absolute perfect karma. To be clear, in spite of the fact that I believe most of the Stop the Steal stuff is bullshit, despite the fact that everybody says the court cases were thrown out, not on the merit. These court cases were all horseshit, and almost any competent lawyer will look at all these cases and tell you they're horseshit with horrible evidence. But just because I disagree with that stuff doesn't mean that I believe that people who want to talk about it should be shut down from talking about it and unpersoned from the entire internet. Now, while Amazon technically is within their right to say we don't want to host your stuff on our platform, their workers are also within their right to use mail-in voting to say we want to unionize in a manner that will, fuck up your profit margins. And hey, fair game's fair game. All's fair in love and war, as they say. And I think that this is a particularly interesting piece of karma. When it comes to unions in general, I tend to lean less pro-union just as a result of my own life experiences. I remember the first job that I had, the union gave us no benefits whatsoever. They never advocated for us, but we got a 17-cent raise when we joined the union, 17.5 cents. However, the union dues each week superseded the 17.5 cent raise unless you worked over 60 hours a week. So in order for the union dues to be outdone by the raise that you got from being in the union, you need to work 60 hours a week, which was just ridiculous. I remember working alongside this one kid at Model Sporting Goods that always used to talk about what a pothead he was. He would brag about the fact that, oh, you shit, boy, I'm so fucking baked, boy, I ain't gonna do shit today, boy. And he would brag about the fact that the entire day at work he wouldn't do anything and he could get away with it. I would be going through the store, taking out all the merchandise from under all the gondolas that people shoved under there. I would go to the computer, look them up, try to figure out what it is, put a barcode on it, and try to sell this stuff. And I would also try to find creative ways to get the items that were in the stock room to be able to fit out in the store, because we got more stock than the store could actually fit out on the floor. How come creative ways to get it out on the floor so it would sell? And after the store's sales went up in my department, about 6 months later, I asked, what would I need to do? What would I need to accomplish in order to get a raise within this position with regards to sales or anything else? And the manager sat me down and explained to me how the union contracts work and said, I cannot give you a raise for any reason. It doesn't matter how much money you make the company. That's the way it is. And this started my disillusionment when it came to unions. Or, if you're waiting at a train station and you see that there's 20 people there that are workers, one of them is working, the other 19 of them with the hard hats and the reflective gear are, dicking around with their phone. My personal favorite was when Jessa came over for Good Morning America, and she used my office to record a piece, and she asked the producer or the camera person, I forget, if they would hand her something, and they were not allowed to hand her something. The extra had to hand her something because that was part of the union contract. So those of you who remember my old store, the entire store was about 650 square feet. My back office was 140 square feet. They had a camera person, a producer, an audio person, Jessa, and me in there. But they needed to bring along the extra, knowing they would do this piece in a 140 square foot room, because they were not allowed to hand something to Jessa, like whatever, there was a water bottle or a phone. They needed the extra to do that. Yep. There's a lot. And again, I think that whether it's a union, a government, or a corporation, large structures lean towards corruption as they get bigger and as time goes on without there being revitalization and change. But I think that Amazon is long past the point where the balance of power is so far tipped out of favor of the workers that unionization would be a good thing. Workers that feel like they can actually piss in a bathroom rather than a Poland Spring bottle, maybe that's not a bad thing. Workers that if they're actually going to work at this crazy ass rate of 300 to 450 packages an hour, whatever the hell it is, maybe, listen, if we're going to make you a $1 trillion company, maybe if we could have air conditioning in here, maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And I'll leave a couple of links down below to some of the worker grievances, and I'll also leave a link to the training video that they use to keep people from unionizing, which is, it's really, really creepy because it's the way they explain everything, I don't know how else to explain it. I'm doing a poor job. You have to watch it. It sounds so dystopian and fucked up the way that they're explaining everything, and I'm kind of happy to see them get theirs. I think that it's 110% hysterical karma. As someone who does not believe in all the mail-in voter fraud, stop the steal shit, I think it's hysterical. They ban a platform where people are discussing the stop the steal stuff, and then they turn around just a few weeks later and start saying, oh, well, we need to have in-person voting because if they vote on a union and via mail-in, there's going to be fraud. The employees may actually get what they want. Fraud. It's funny to me. I can laugh at this karma, and I don't have to agree with the people who believe something that I believe is false to also believe that it is fucked up to stop them from speaking across the entire internet. That's not going to work. If people believe a certain thing and you believe that it's bullshit, try and figure out what incentivizes them to believe that thing. What are your issues? What are your grievances? Let's have a conversation, because here's one thing I can tell you for certain. If you think that by turning off conversations entirely, that you're going to make anything better, that you're going to do anything other than push this shit further and further underground and harden these social media platforms to the point where you genuinely can't do anything about them, you are sadly mistaken. That's not the way the world works. That's not the way people works, and that will make things considerably worse. I wasn't a fan of not a fan of all that stuff, but I will have conversations with people. Why do you believe this? Why do you think this? What are your concerns? What are your issues? Why are you aggravated? What do you think would be a good way to compromise and deal with the issues that you have going forward? May not agree, may not implement it, but you should listen. You should listen. And this stuff, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something.